Okay, welcome to our evening workshop called The Artist as Entrepreneur. And this is a joint effort between the COAS Economic Development folks, SCORE here in New Hampshire, which is a business partner of the SBA. So welcome everybody, and I'd like to introduce our guest presenter tonight. The acclaimed artist is Anne Domingue. And I'll let Anne take over, and I'm watching the slides, and here we go. Thank you, Anne.
Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You might see that our internet might be a little bit wonky, but we're going to do our best to work our way through it for the rest of the night. So again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate your being there. So, and you all in the room here too, thanks for coming out on this kind of drizzly, rainy night here in Colebrook. So if we could do the next slide. This next slide talks about a real critical part of working as an artist. And that's the one. You'll see when you read it that it's just so vitally important that you just take the first step, and that is simply to get started. Small bits at a time, whether you're really great at it or not, that's not the point. The point is to acknowledge in yourself the fact that you have an interest in art. It's something most likely longstanding, and wherever you are right now, simply just get started. And hopefully you'll be making a habit out of that. Okay, and again, thank you to SCORE for having me do this presentation again. A couple of other folks on this presentation might have listened to this before. I've modified this to speak a little bit to some of the world situations that we've all done recently. So I'd really like for you all to hear how some things have changed and how you may want to consider changing how you do your work as an artist. Next. First off, this might sound like too basic of a question, but it's really critical to first ask yourself, no matter what stage of art you're in, is why are you interested in art? If you have a notebook or a sketchbook nearby, or later on after they're able to watch this again, I'm not sure if that's how this happens, that you'd be able to view it again, but write down some really clear answers of why you'd like to do this. It's a really different path of a career than other jobs for a couple of different reasons. So when you do think this over, try to write about 3 different reasons that you've really decided that you want to make art your work and your life. Okay. And as you'll see, you'll want to be really honest with yourself. You may have some ideas that you've never actually said out loud before or ever written down. It's going to be really important that you come face to face with that and literally put it down on a piece of paper. You don't have to show it to anyone, even at this stage. At some point you will, but it's not necessary to do that right now. A thing about the honesty piece is I like to ask you, is your art interest your own, or is it someone else's wish for you? Parent, a sibling, a friend, classmates, college mates, teachers, that kind of thing. It needs to really come from you. These other folks can nudge you in the right direction, but this needs to be honestly from you, because to be an artist and work as an artist is a very difficult thing. There's a lot of aspects of it that other people in other careers don't have to deal with, many of the same issues that come up as an artist. So you'll just really want to be sure that this is justifiably interested in. And since you are here, go to the next. I'm going to assume that now this headline is a big yes for you, and you are an artist maker of some sort. During this presentation, I'm trying to apply this information to a broad range of mediums. So it doesn't matter whether you are a craft person, a fine craft person, a painter, a potter, weaver, sewer. I think a lot of this is going to be applicable. So let's just simply at the moment talk about creativity as a skill. That is actually the thing that you have to offer the world, is a sense of creativity. It's going to be with the medium that you've chosen, but also as a creative individual. And if you've been thinking of yourself as an artist, you have a really different skill and interest and way about you that other people don't have. Actually, more than half the people in the world seem to think they are creative. But the other part that's really important when you want to make a living as an artist is that you really have to have some skill on the business side and feel a sense that you need to be organized in order to make that business side of things function well. So I think as an artist, you feel you've got a lot of the art side handled, and then it becomes marrying that with the business side so that you can really build a wonderful business for yourself. And then if it expands out into bringing other people into your fold, so be it. And then you'll know when those times come when that's probably a really smart thing for you to do. Okay. Next slide. And when you get started in this, all of a sudden things happen in the world. Next, such as this. This has been a real monkey wrench in a lot of artist plans, no matter what stage you're in as an artist. This thing brought so many aspects of what we needed to stay functioning and flowing well. It just brought it to a complete standstill for short term, depending on where you live, and for a long term until now, depending on where you live. Things have, really changed dramatically. So unfortunately, each one of us has had to deal with the specifics of getting things back online for ourselves in a really different manner. So the pandemic is just one major thing that happened worldwide to everyone, but you can count on, as an artist, daily life things are going to be constantly there, and you're going to feel you need to constantly manage those things alongside your art. So my recommendation was, during the pandemic, hopefully you were still able to work on your art in some way or another. Maybe you weren't able to physically make the thing that you wanted or needed to make because you couldn't get to your studio because it was in town and they locked everybody out, that sort of thing. That you were able to focus your energies on those other things that you could accomplish during this sort of quiet time period, albeit difficult pandemic time. So what I hope that you've learned, or you can learn now about trying to manage your way through the pandemic, is that keep working. If it's really in your heart and soul that you want to work as an artist, you want to improve yourself, keep working. That's the best answer for this. Next. So you're going to see this pop up a few times through the presentation, that no matter what happens with various interruptions in your life, I want you to always remember that even the tiniest steps that you can take as an artist, whether it's reorganizing images on your computer, finally taking all the photos off your phone and getting a storage online backup contract going with some online service that will hold those forever, so that you don't have to worry that when you jump in the pool with your phone in your pocket or fall in a stream when you're trying to get a good shot, you're not losing all the images on your phone and stuff. So just try to alleviate some of those really annoying things that pop up, especially when you have some free time or open time to take care of some of these things. Let's see. So just simply staying focused in whichever way you can. It might not be ideal, but I just don't want you to lose your focus and just be persistent. Okay, and you'll be just better prepared as society moves ahead. Okay. So those of you who are in one of these stages of your art making, it's just simply never too late to start or shift gears or change mediums. If you really feel a strong pull to try something else, you may want to jump into it 2 feet first and forget what you already had been working in. That may not be advisable. It's a little advisable to test the waters first of this new thing that you want to do before you jump in feet first. Age doesn't really matter, whether you're a Sunday art maker and you're 21 years old or 71 years old. It really doesn't matter whether you're a hobbyist, part-time, full-time. Just get started so you can gain some traction on what you're doing. And the starting part could be simply with a sketchbook. Keep one sketchbook, one of those that about a ½ inch thick, has 120 plus pages in it. Keep all of the information that you gather, make your notes. Don't have a scrambled pile of papers all over your house or a studio space or a desk or whatever. Get it all into the same space so that you only have one place that you need to go to and keep track of. All you're doing is looking for that darn sketchbook that you painted a giant peace sign on the outside, or you glued a gorgeous piece of fabric to it so that you know that that's your sketchbook. And that thing never goes out of your sight. It's never put in, it's never put away. Okay? It's always just out, almost like annoying you to like, remember, I'm here. You need to put something on my pages because I hate blank pages. So let's see. Next, I'd like to talk about now, can I make a living making art? Yes, some of you probably already do. I know I did. 10 years ago, I left a career in graphic design in order to do my art full time. But the 30 years before that, I was doing little bits of art and exploring different mediums, ways of painting. I didn't have a studio. I just had an easel in the corner of a room in a house next to my graphic design setup. And now finally, if I don't have to be on the computer, I don't. But 50% of being an artist and trying to market your work actually needs to be being somewhat proficient on the computer and various software. And that'll be just specific to whatever you do personally as an artist. Okay. Let's see. So using, actually being more proficient at the business side is probably going to be the more difficult half for most of you. That's not unlike, because we as artists use one side of the brain creatively, and then the other side is not so well tuned on the business side. So strengthen that, and you're just going to be all the better for it. Okay, next. So this is an interesting part that as an artist, it's not necessary to wear a button-down collar shirt and a tie, or, a fancy dress and stilettos to work kind of thing. I'm just joking, but, you get the luxury of being able to be really casual in your everyday work life. And other folks will be super jealous of just simply because of that. It's like, you get to wear painty jeans, you get to wear rippy t-shirt. Like, yes, I do. And I don't want to take a shower in the morning and go to my studio. I don't do that either. So there's a real advantage for working as an entrepreneur. Next. Sometimes the general public, they don't understand artists, and I get that. But being an artist, entrepreneur, or business person, it's not an oxymoron. We can absolutely do both. We're better at one side, and we have to work at the other side a little bit more. So just read through this list, and we as artists can be both. no question about it. So what some people see as disorganized, we can say ourselves, but we're pretty good jugglers, where we can put a lot of balls in the air and keep them going. Some people think that you're a little bit too casual dressed. It's like, well, it's not that you're unprofessional. It's just that in my profession, I get to be casual. Okay, so it's the point of view of the world and other people who are not artists that see things on the left-hand side of the page. And those who are artists, I like to see us thinking about ourselves as the right-hand column on the page. And you can still obviously be successful. Okay. Next, always be open to learning what you don't know. It's important as artists that you don't keep going over and over and over the things that you already know. If you already know about color, great. Take a workshop in composition. If you already know about composition, take a workshop in color or monochromatic drawing or painting or photography. Stay learning the skills that are associated with being an artist, and that will help broaden your offerings when it comes down to you really needing to make a strong decision about what it is and how you're going to make a living as an artist. Okay. So you are responsible. So don't rely on somebody else for that. So if you need to learn something because you don't know about that and you have to lean on someone else constantly for that information, do yourself a favor as an artist and go right ahead and learn and see if you can trade a painting for someone who will teach you how to use Microsoft Word or Office or Excel, something like that. And also you can talk to a score mentor, the people who are hosting this for us tonight. There's a lot of people there, I'm sure, that could help with some of the smaller and bigger things that you're going to need on the business side of things. Next. And while you're learning something about business, you're going to still keep working on your art. Okay, that's just going to be a static thing. Okay. So this is a really simple goal, but be the kind of artist others want to do business with. You've all had business interactions with people and you just come out shaking your head going, wow, I actually know more than that person did, or they didn't handle that very well. They weren't kind to me. And I thought I was being very nice. So you want to be known in your inner circle and then your ever widening circle as you become a little bit better known and braver to put yourself out there in the world. You want to be known as, oh, that's the artist that does a good job with her inventory list, or that's a painter that really prepares her paintings well and puts the hangers on correctly, or that's the ceramics person that let's see, sands off the drippy overflowing glaze on a pot so that people don't cut themselves on a shard of glaze on a glass or mug or whatever. So you want to be that person that people point to and say, that seems like a really good person to do business with. Okay. And here's what a path of an artist can look like. Next. So there's a couple of different ways. And these two are just an indication of what a straight on, straightforward, find your lucky star and get there with no twists and turns. The bottom green path is actually real life. The top one, we can think all we want in our minds that it's going to be that one, but that's not actually how it works. So the bottom one is going to be you start wherever you are, doesn't matter where you are, and then you begin to walk. Like the first slide said, just take the first steps and begin where you are. And some things are going to loop you around and you wonder, you're right back where you started from, where you made 2 steps ahead, you went backwards, and then things aren't going along terribly smoothly. But this bottom indication of this almost balled up, unstrung ball of yarn, it also, you're still making something of it. I mean, look at how much effort got put into all those swirls, and you kept going and you kept going, and nothing really got in the way. And then finally, when you hit a somewhat mature level of work and understanding of marketing and your brand, you finally circle on to something that appears to be working, and then you arrive at that star. And then what's going to happen next is you're going to reevaluate, because maybe you're bored with being there right now. I've got to liven up whatever I'm going to do. And then the process begins over again, but you're not going all the way back to scratch. You're starting right where you are on that star where the green is, because you've accumulated all that knowledge and all those steps, and you're just going to start there and continue to move ahead again. So there's nothing, there's no problem with starting again, but just know that you've accumulated all that knowledge, you put the time in, you're starting at a new point, and you're going to move ahead. And I just don't want you to, give up hope at all. Okay, next. This is an interesting one that a situation happened to me. So I've added this piece in here about not allowing shiny objects, shiny people, or their ideas to derail your plan. So it will be important as you move and as you develop skill in your chosen area of art, that you try to stay where your belief is with yourself of where your path needs to be. And you can speak with other shiny people who seem to think they know better than you, or they have this fantastic advice to give you and stuff. You can take it all in, but don't act on it immediately. So really give yourself a chance to let those ideas or thoughts simmer for a while, and then move ahead with your plan. Sometimes people can really pull you away from the direction that you intended yourself to go on. Well-intentioned, though, that they may be, but you still want to try to stay on your own. Tell them, thank you very much for that information. I'll really consider it. Thanks for sharing, that kind of thing. And then, do what you can to take bits and pieces of it as you see fit in your own life. Okay. This is a really interesting thing, and it does hurt a lot of artists' feelings when someone will come up to you, or you're comparing your work with someone else's work. Like I've been doing and thought I was an artist since I was 5, or even younger. And now that I'm 65, I've only been at this full time for 10 years. So I've had a lot of life, a lot of experience, a lot of things happened to me, a ton of decisions that had to be made all the way to where I am right now. So I just think about myself just from a couple of years ago and go back and look at the work I was doing and go, wow, okay, well, that one really worked out well. That's going to be my starting point now for my work coming up in 2023. So you always want to compare yourself with yourself, who you were yesterday, not to someone else that you see out on social media who you drool after their work and compare yourself to them. Oh, I'll never get there. I'm not as good as that. I can't paint that well. I don't know about color. And that, well, then I guess you have to learn about color. You have to analyze the work that you really appreciate and that you attach to really closely. Figure out what the things are that person does well. Pull that from that person's work, and then you can integrate it in some light way in what you do. But if you feel so strongly about somebody else's work, figure out what it is. Don't copy them. Don't ever copy anyone's work and put it for sale. You can copy someone's work if it's for your own education purposes, but that's it. So you want to come up with your own work so that nobody else can ever say that, hey, that was my idea, that's my image, you copied it. And that does happen. It's embarrassing for the artist that has done it. And it's kind of hurtful to the person who you've actually stolen their idea from. So giant advice, just don't do that. But you can really appreciate someone else's work. And that's what it is about someone else's work that you really mean to, let's see, copy or learn from, that kind of thing. Okay, so next. When it comes to family, it's really important as an artist that you have considerations for your family. So whether you're single, you live at home, you're single, live alone, you live with friends, you're married, you've got a house, you've got children in school, and a whole slew of things to take care of in your life. You need to work your art into the family life. It's not really the other way around. You don't work your family life into your art. It's going to be better for your family if you figure out with them, around them, between, in the midst of, you work your art into your family life so that you don't make a very chaotic life for yourself. And that just never, it really never works. So figure out a way that everybody can have some sort of interesting compromise. If you need to take the corner of the dining room to put a drafting table up and a lamp and a stool, everybody okay with that in the family? And yes, and then, then you can proceed ahead. All right, so just be really considerate of the people who you're living with and that you do your life with. Okay, next. And also about household income. That's a really big issue for artists, as we know. It's really hard to make a full-time living out of your art. So you have to start slow and steady wins the race. That's a definite thing for an artist. It's the steady part is really the most important part. So you'll want to find a fair solution. Let's see, and you'll need, the support of your life partner. I have a wonderful husband. He's learned so much about art in our life that he had no idea that I had this latent thing that I was thinking about wanting to work as a full-time artist, and it's all worked out for us. So I think if you're open and honest with the people who matter to you, I like to think that you'd be able to figure this out for yourselves. Okay, and again, even through all of that, keep working on your art. I keep a 9x12 sketchbook next to me in the evenings if we're watching sports or the World Cup or news and whatever. I'm just doodling in my book. Sometimes the next day I look at it in the morning and go, wow, okay, maybe just having only half attention allowed my creativeness to throw down a note or two or scribble that actually made sense the following day. So take advantage of those quiet times and just stay working on your art through a sketchbook, which I always advise everyone to have. And the self-education piece, information today is really easy for you to access, but you have to take the action to go and do that. So you want to stay up with your peers, your competitors, and just begin, as we said from the beginning, don't overthink it, but just accumulate information and be responsible for your own education. A long time ago, when art magazines used to come in the mail, I had a ridiculous stack of watercolor magazines. Probably was three feet thick of a collection in various boxes. And I went through them finally, and I tore out the pages that I was most interested in, which was learning different techniques. And then that's all I saved. And it turned out that maybe it was then 3 inches thick instead of 36 inches thick worth of magazines. So grab what you can and file them or sort them. Obviously on the computer, you can scan and drop things in folders that you'll want to go back and look at those folders and to get that information when you need it. Okay, so And start a small library for yourself of pertinent books and references, whether those are online links or physical books. During this presentation, we're going to send out a PDF with links in it for references and resources that I find interesting. They may not all, obviously, they're not all going to be of interest to you, but they're a starting point for a lot of areas of working as an artist. Okay. Next. This next little bit of information is about perfection. I find that this is one of the most immobilizing things for artists, and it stops them from proceeding forward. So if you're one of those artists and you're waiting to be perfect with something or other, I don't really care what medium it's in, it's not going to happen. So you need to put yourself out there, whether it's 80%, 85%, and then you refine it a little bit further down the road. The next month or two, you might be talking, let's say, with another woodworker, and they say, wow, you could really clean up that edge by doing this. And then you're like, oh, wow, that gets me another 5% down to close to perfect. Okay, but perfection is one of those things that people use as a form of resistance from moving forward, from actually doing their work. It's like if you can't put down a perfect stroke of red on wet watercolor paper or a perfect stroke of oil paint on top of another color, oh, you're just going to give up. It's like, no, you just work yourself right through it. If you really want to work as an artist, you will find your way. And it's not about being perfect. It's about the process of getting better all the time. Okay. Another thing for artists that you need to have is a thick skin. You need to be able to take criticism, and that it's not about you, yourself, it's about your art, and that is separate from yourself. So if someone says, wow, I don't like those colors, they're just so intense, you go, oh, what would you prefer to, see there? And somebody might say, well, if you had mixed that red, complementary red with this little touch of green, it would have muted ever so slightly the real intensity of those two colors, and it would have made me, it's a little easier to look at. And then you take that little bit of information, you go back to your studio, you try it and go, I just learned something. And that's the truth of color. And that is what people can fight with for their whole career, and all of a sudden something just clicks and things are much more smooth and your artwork is just more pleasant to look at. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see, I'd love for you all to have a notebook of some kind, especially those of you who are starting a business. Making your artwork, it sounds ridiculous, but that is your number one job. This comes back to a bit of that conversation about, let's see, letting distractions get you off track of where you're intending on going, or where you'd like to go, or where you see yourself going. And if you don't do your work and you're distracted by going to the store, or going out for a sale, or taking a walk around the block that goes for 2 hours, and you really meant to only go out for 25 minutes, you have to find discipline so that you've got your time, and this is your job. Making your art your job. Okay. Let's see. I'd also like to mention that if you are having trouble finding time to make your art, you probably should consider scheduling your art making time into your weekly calendar. So if you're a morning person, you're going to get up early in the morning and you're going to put in 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half. If you're a late night person, maybe after everybody goes to bed, or it's a quieter in your household after 8, maybe you're working on your art from 8 to 11. You don't have to watch TV. You can record whatever you might want to watch. You watch it at some other time, but your art making time of day is going to be sacrosanct for you. So there's no negotiation about it. It's always, or it's already been determined in your household. Whether you live alone or you live with a family or a spouse, you just make an understanding with one another that Saturday from 12 to 3, I'm going to be doing my art. spouse wants to go do something else, that's all fine, but that's it. And then you get, over time, you add more time during the week to that as you get excited about doing your work and as your family is excited on your behalf because you're really making progress. Okay. So when you have your paper pen ready, I'd like to talk with you now about your specific craft, your specific art. What is one key thing that you create, make, or offer for sale? And can you actually define and clearly say whatever that is in 6 words or less? I make acrylic paintings. That's my core product right now. One thing, one version, can you actually say that in 6 words or less? Artists tend to talk around things instead of getting right to the point. It's way more fun to talk around and play with words and hand gestures and things, but just clearly just say it in 6 words or less. This is going to be something that you're going to be building on a little bit as we talk about things. Okay. Okay, next. Now, if I say I make acrylic paintings, what is my core product? That's it. But why do customers need this? And does it solve a problem? So if you're an artist and you think you're going to offer something to the general public for sale, why would a customer, client, consumer need this? Are you offering something that solves some sort of a problem? Does no one do nice architectural paintings like are surrounding me in this room about the local community? That's what I see quite a few pieces around here done by the artist that's actually sitting in the room with us, Barbara, right? Mm-hmm. And if that solves a problem locally, that's one thing. And if it could solve a problem beyond local, that would be even better if you expect to expand your area of sales and try to find a larger market. That would be a good thing. So when you're doing your core product, then you're responsible to know your own rules within your product line and how to shift and make your product better or new. Okay, what you want is someone to say, wow, I've never seen that before. So it makes an impression on someone that it's not just another one of some things. It's this unique way of presenting some things. And it's going to have your name attached to it. And you hope that people remember you as the person that does this new thing that they've never seen before. Okay, whether it's wood, clay, ceramic, painting, drawing, whatever. Okay, next. So what is most unique about your product? Okay, is it really different enough from other options that are on the market? Regarding size, quality, material, usefulness. And you want to be able to ascertain that very specifically about your product, so that when you go and you're going to go and talk and try to market your work to a gallery or let's see, a craft group. What is the name of the place down the street that you mentioned? Like a North Country Marketplace, for instance, and you'd like to go there and ask them, would you carry my work if I did a series of things that looked like this? And that would be how you would have something new and different to offer the general public, especially in your own home area. And the other reason is that you're competing for a share of people's pocketbook. So you would like someone to see your work as a high value product item and be able to be willing to put over some hard-earned income that they have because they really believe that your piece of artwork is worthy of their money and their income. Okay. So these attributes that you're going to think about for your own product, this is how you're going to market and sell and inform the public about your work. Okay. Now, thinking about your one product that you make, do you know the cost of materials to just make one of these at a very basic size? My base size painting is 12 by 12 inches. It might be on a wood cradled panel, or it's a canvas wrapped cradled canvas. So that is my base size. At one point, I started selling those at $325, and right now they sell fairly regularly at $900. Now that transition took me about 15 years to go from that lower price to where it's been this price for probably the last 3 years. So it was a slow go, but eventually I got there, and I think that's just going to stay there as my base product still to come. So what you want to figure out just roughly is the number of hours, materials, costs, maybe travel, if there's any specialized processing that takes you to have to go to a foundry and then have a model, test model made, and then something scanned that takes you away from or in need of a service that you can't do yourself. Roughly figure out what the cost of that, maybe the travel and then the cost of the item, for instance. And that's not a perfect starting point, but it is a starting point because at absolute minimum, you want to cover your cost to produce your product. Okay. Nice. And then just thinking the time that you can devote to making your art in 1 week, possibly how many could you produce in a week? It's difficult with painters. It's a little easier to figure out if you are a three-dimensional craft, a ceramic artist, and you really love making a particular bowl. People really love these bowls. How many could you make in a week? It might take 2 weeks because you've got to make it, let it dry, glaze it, fire it, and wait a little. There's a process for that, but you know your product and your process best. So go right ahead and try to figure out realistically, with the time that you currently devote to your work, how many could you make, and per month and per year. This will give you an indication of how much more time can you squeeze out of your week to make maybe 1 or 2 more of these items. Maybe it might mean you can make 10 more. But that's up to you based on what it is that you make. Let's see. Okay. All right, so next, while you're doing that, you're still going to be making your art, whether it's in a sketchbook or you're still going to the studio, but you're in the process of finding out all of this other information about your art and the pricing of it. Next. So how to price it? It depends. If yours work is not really good and really high quality, then you have work to do. When you go out to the marketplace, which is going to be my advice, is you're going to go, if you're a painter, you're going to go to galleries, you're going to go to places that display and sell paintings and art. You're going to try to objectively look at the work that's on the walls. This can be really hard to do. Because it is hard for artists to be objective. So just know that's a fact. So put your objectivity hat on and try to look and see what the pricing is. If they're a new painter, look at what the price is. Don't compare yourself to my art and the markets that I have established and that I have found traction in allows me to ask a certain amount for my work. Now that I would never have been able to do that at the beginning. But once I found a fan base and that kind of thing, that has led me to being able to increase my pricing, make larger pieces of what I do, and just has worked really well. So you would want to do your homework on how to pricing by going to the places that sell the kind of art that you want to make. So you're going to be at a marketplace of some sort, a gallery, you're going to go, to all 6 states in New England and see what the going price is for work such as you'd like to make. And then you're going to get a feel for what is a good price for you to start at. If things start flying off the shelves at that lower price, that's an indication that you need to increase your price a bit, because people are more than willing to pay that. Then maybe they pay $50, $100, $250 more, depending on what your price and what your product actually is. Okay, let's see. Searching online for pricing. You can easily do that now. Etsy has 1 million shops and 1 million vendors and artists out there who do work. I'm not advising that you do that. That's a completely personal choice for you. Try it if you like it. My success is found with working directly with galleries in a bit of a brick and mortar sort of way, galleries that literally hang the art on the walls. It's not an online digital gallery. Although my most successful gallery in Portland, Maine, Portland Art Gallery, they do have a brick and mortar, gorgeous location right on Middle Street in Portland. But at the same time, they have a really wonderful online presence, and they work really hard through social media and marketing online to get all of our work out there, of which there's 52 plus artists at this gallery. And it's just a really good find for me and a very good fit for my work as well. It also puts me close to home. It's only a 2-hour less drive for me to get there and back. So that suits me well. I can go up and back in a day, and I'm fine with that. But visiting the actual places so you can touch and feel and see the quality of somebody else's work is really critical, and that's going to help you price. Okay, next. And again, how much money can you make per year? It totally depends on if you can find the right audience and markets to sell your work in. And that's what we're going to talk about next. And that's going to be marketing. And it's about making a marketing plan, which is, it's not an easy thing to do. So how to reach people you don't know and they don't know you exist. So that's a really difficult, path to get on, to try to have people know who you are and learn about you. You can try exhibiting in various nonprofit organizations around the state. New Hampshire has a lot of great outlets. Vermont, Maine, where all 3 of us are really strong in the arts. I think Northern New Hampshire has a really good 3D craft. Lots of people that live, in the woods of New Hampshire, and certainly in some of the other communities down by me, do amazing art from various mediums. So it doesn't really matter where you live, but you have to do some work now to reach the people who you think might be interested in your art. Okay. Next. So your market for your product can be local, regional, national. You're going to be doing research online for the kinds of places that sell the kind of work that you really love to make. So if you don't love to make it, this whole searching and researching on how to market is not going to be a challenge that you're going to be willing to engage in. And my bet is that you probably just quit making your work, or quit even learning anything about how to market it. So, but if you start small and local, I think that's really very important. And like, we are lucky in this 3-state area that there are a lot of options. It may mean traveling for you, and you go and maybe you stay a weekend somewhere, and you visit every art gallery, shop, marketplace that you believe that you have searched out online, that they actually have shops and places for you to go into. And in some cases, if you want to try to show a portfolio of what you do. You can bring that with you, but don't expect that a shop owner is going to drop everything and look at what you have. It would be better if you made an appointment. Call on a regular phone, speak to someone for real on the phone. You can get a sense of them and they'll get a little sense of you that way, and try to engage in a good conversation. And hopefully they will get you an appointment and you'll be able to show them what you do by bringing a nice sampling of what you do. If your things are 3D, try to bring a sample with you, but have some really well done photographs of your three-dimensional work to show, in case your work is way too large for them to see. Okay, let's see. Another thing, if you are in a region that has a lot of local craftspeople, like the League of New Hampshire Craftsman Fair at Sunapee, you can see, I forget the number of artists that they have there. I think it's 125, it could even be more, of literal crafters that you can meet, touch, feel, examine, ask questions. It's a real gold mine. So if you can get to any of those large outdoor shows like that, that would be a really great resource for you to have some firsthand knowledge of the actual product. Talk to the craftspeople. They're usually wonderful to talk. Okay, next. Okay. So marketing is really about making this connection between you and any potential fan. You already know probably easily over 100 people that you can start a list right now. So you'll want to start a list of their actual street address. So you have that snail mail ability to send a postcard. You can certainly grab their best email, which can be very challenging to keep up on people's emails as it changes a lot. So if you know someone who likes data entry and that kind of thing, maybe they can help you out by making a really nice, helping you with an address list and an email list, possibly a phone number as well. But we all know at least 100 people, and that's a super starting point for a list. It's all family members, all friends, possibly friends of friends who said they kind of like what you do. Try to get your friends or your family to also give their friends name to you and make connections. Okay, so you can also start this through Instagram if you like, Facebook, obviously, and I'm sure there are other ways of doing that online that you might know how to work the software better, or you know how to make introductions and make those connections faster and better for yourself. But before you even have your final product ready, you can start this list tomorrow morning. That's something absolutely, if you haven't done it, find a software online. I started mine in Excel. I'm not sure if there's sort of a customer relations management software out there that's a fairly simple app to use. I'm sure there is, and I would get started there. Professional connections, if you've been in business and a different career for a long time, see if those people would like to follow your art career and gather their information as well. Those are people who are in business and actually may be very willing to help another person along in their art career and buy one of your pieces. Let's see, neighbors, professional services, sports teams in town, schools, churches, health clubs, garden clubs, anything that has a membership organization is going to be a wealth of possibility for you, for people who you can build your list on. Okay, and now next and most importantly, marketing is about telling your unique story in an interesting way. Okay. My story about my art is different from Jean's story about his career and Eric, his story about her career. Everybody has their own story, and sometimes it's not obvious to us as the artist as to what that story is. So this is another thing that you can start to think about, make notes in a sketchbook about what is interesting about me that other people have said to me, wow, that's really interesting, or wow, you had a career teaching karate and now you're doing these paintings that are fabulous. Well, like Barbara in the room has two careers, one as a baker and the other as a painter. So, I mean, how do you connect these two things, together? They're maybe not connected, but if you talk to a baker and anyone who's a cook, that's a creative endeavor. So it's not that unusual that you're going to find people that have done both of those kind of careers. So, so in telling your unique story, let's see, it's going to depend on, it's going to depend on your product. So how you can market it. So you can do some old school techniques such as sandwich boards in town, yard signs, that kind of thing. You can step out into the world in maybe a different way by volunteering for an organization in town. Maybe people know you as a painter, but maybe you could do a sponsorship, maybe a $50 gift card, to some art show that's going on in town, or for the schools, that kind of thing, to put your stuff out there in your community. Maybe they want to do a community mural, that might be something that you could get involved in, or they want to do a piece of public sculpture, but they want to use somebody who's from the neighborhood and from your area. Perfect. And maybe you could be a match for that. But you have to put yourself out there into the world to find out these opportunities that may be there and that you never realized was something that you could tap into. There's plenty of art associations like New Hampshire Art Association, the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen, and there's art associations of all sorts all over New England. So I encourage you to just step out and go right ahead and join some of those organizations, and that'll expand your reach as well. Okay. Next. So when you are thinking about your story, then you need to show and tell your story. So the showing of it is the result of your efforts as a painter. And then you're going to have to come up with ways of talking about your chosen art endeavors. So people might ask you, how did you come up with this idea for your product? That could be a way of you creating a short story. If this is a paragraph, maybe 4 lines that just succinctly tells people where you came from, what this is that you do, and it's because of such and such that you do it. And that's a really great starting point for a conversation with people. And then you can expound on that in the, as you develop your work and as you develop your marketing ideas and your marketing plan overall. Okay, next. Let's talk a little bit about your customers and then what are demographics. It's interesting that you can actually do a profile of your ideal customer. So if you can imagine who would be interested in what I do. I'll use myself as the example. It's like I finally had to nail down even that I was going to be a painter. There's so many options of being an artist out there. I like sculpture. I love printmaking. I like watercolor, acrylic, and oils. And generally the 2-dimensional arts is where I found that I love drawing. So finally, I just decided, okay, I'm going to put my stake in the ground as a painter. And I'm not going to work on these other things. I'm just going to consider myself a painter. And then I had to figure out then, well, what am I going to paint about? How big am I going to paint? What am I going to paint with? And then after that, once I settled on, I really love seacoast things. I like things with salt water and waves and everything about the beach and tide pools and the shells and all the critters that live there. I just really like that stuff. So that's where my first large body of work came from. And it also pointed me in a direction where I took my first workshop, which was a take a ferry to an island and stay for a week, painting workshop on Monhegan Island in Maine. And then I just stood around watching all these people paint for the entire days. I'm like, you mean to tell me you guys do this all day, every day, if you can? And they're like, yes. I'm like, wow, that was like an amazing bit of information for me. So that's when I realized, like, wow, you can actually make a living doing this. And yes, they did. They're in this gallery, that gallery, they do this, they have a home studio, and like, oh my goodness, boy, did I miss that. I never really thought about it in that way. So that sent me on a path that I was really ready to go, and helped a lot. What happened after that was, okay, that's interesting. So now I know that I can do this. Who do I sell to? And so because I did things that were related to the ocean, it was kind of obvious. I would try to find galleries and stuff that were near the ocean. They had waterfront areas, and people go there on vacation, and tourists are there, and they all love the same things I do, except as one of my lines that I use, I reflect on it in a different light. The way I take in and then, translate out in my art is different than other artists do it. And that is what people find appealing about what I do. And that really has set me off on a path that's been very successful. So I had to find the demographics of the people who were interested in my work. So that was people who vacationed on a seacoast, people who have careers there, who live there, who travel through. They come by boat, they come by car, train. Their level of income was middle to high income, probable higher education. Their activities were travel, antiquing, shopping, but then they also were boaters and loved the water. Age was about 60 to 65, female. And that was the crux of where I was able to zero in on who my customer was and who my customers still are. So that was a really eye-opening experience. From there, with that demographic information, helped guide me to where I could display my work best. Next. And so where my best customers lived was just really an important tidbit of information. So I had to find trends that were in my market area. So luckily I live in New England. I've lived in 3 New England states. So, and I've always lived near the water, and except when I moved to New Hampshire, now I'm inland, but I'm only an hour from Portsmouth. So that's kind of near the water. But I've always had an affinity for that. So my market area turns out to be northern Massachusetts, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and up to Camden, Maine. So that's the area. So it hugs the coast. The coast is so long and complex with villages and stuff that there's a lot of market area for me to work with. So when you go searching for your market areas, you'll want to find these pockets and these places that people go looking for something interesting like you do. Okay, and that's a good way to get started. You may find in some cases that you want to market from your own home situation, from your own town, and then you want to ship out. So you want to be your own business person as far as fulfilling orders and that kind of thing. That's a personal choice for you. I chose to work with galleries. I bring my work to a gallery. And when you work with a gallery, unbeknownst to a lot of people, it is a 50% commission that they take on the work. So if I sell a painting for $900, they get $450 and I get $450. The reality of that is that I get exposure to a very particular audience because they go into that gallery. That gallery has a mailing list, and they constantly are updating and cultivating the market through that list and growing that list all the time. I don't have the time personally to do that myself. So I rely on my galleries to do that. And I feel that the 50-50 commission is worth it for me, the way that I think about things. Other people may not feel that way, and you'll have to make your own decisions out there as you try to find places to market your work. Okay. And you'll want to modify your product based on people's feedback of your work. Try to be open-minded. and open-hearted and take what they say. Don't argue with them. Don't try to justify what you've done, and just appreciate that, the feedback, and you'll take it in and think about it and thank them for that. Some people won't be honest, but you needed to have the art, the honest little statement made to you, and that will improve your product. I can guarantee that. Okay, next. So where does your ideal customer live? That's up for you to figure this out. It is going to take some work to do that, and there are some online tools that you'll be able to search out that may be very specific for the kind of art that you do. There's a lot of e-commerce options out there now, and they can also be a way to refine your customer details and guide you to the right kind of person that may be interested in what you do. Okay, my advice is to market in your own home area first, so that you don't have the expenses of travel, you don't have the expenses of shipping, if there's any way for you to get into the local gift shop in town, the local craft place, maybe a hair salon. I've had my paintings in restaurants and hair salons early on, and let the general local public see what it is that you do. And that's a really good way to begin the process. Okay, next. You have all of these options to reach customers and potential customers. You probably know almost all of these, but they're all at your fingertips today through the computer. It's going to be a good amount of work on your part, but you already have the hard part done, which is knowing that you're an artist. You've already defined what it is that you're going to work and make, and figuring out roughly the price for it. And then you're going to have to do a lot more legwork on the marketing of it. Okay. Let's see. I have some other things about marketing and stuff. There's a lot of debate regarding web ads and Google ads and stuff today. So you'll want to stay up on marketing tips regarding best practices on how to engage with those. I am not doing any of those right now. Press releases, I do some small YouTube videos. I blog, let's see, outdoor shows, some pop-up gallery, and I had been doing open studios until that kind of got a bit derailed. So I do several of those things that seem to work for me, but you might find that something else works by far better for you. So feel free, if you have confidence that it's going to work for you, just go for it. Okay. This is just a really interesting thing for artists. Sometimes where you're living and working winds up not being your ideal market. I live close enough to the seacoast when I defined what it was that I really wanted to paint about. So I was willing to do the drive to one of my farthest galleries to make things work, which turned out that it was a 5.5-hour drive, and I have a relative that lives in Upper Maine that I could stay with, and then I could get myself back home the next day reasonably well. So, but you'll want to think about this with you and your family. Is everybody up to make a move? Is it evident to your family and friends that you are sincerely engaged in this art endeavor that you have, and you've gotten some traction locally already, but you really think you need to live maybe where the certain kind of wood you want to use is available? Is that realistic for your family to say, yeah, I think we wouldn't mind, moving to upstate New York, or, down East Maine, or Cape Cod, for instance, something like that. So again, that being an artist is really a family business. It affects so many aspects of a family like that. You'll just want to really be careful of that as you make your decisions. And next, while you're doing all that, you still need to do this. Okay, next. Brand is a word that is thrown around a lot today. You'll hear it everywhere. So it is not just a logo. like the Nike swoosh brand and various other major brand logos that you're really familiar with, there's a whole perception of what that brand is about. And when a brand goes wrong in a major way for a major brand, it hurts that brand significantly. So you as a small brand would have a smaller footprint, but you might, but you're going to be very cautious of how you put yourself out there, and you want to control what people think of you as the brand of XYZ painter or XYZ potter. You want to really, again, be honest with what you believe your brand either is at the moment or what you are striving to do. And hopefully those are an exact matchup as quickly as possible. So the quality of what you do really is what the brand is all about for you. And it's really important to stay in line with your brand through everything. So how you take care of your product, how you package it, how, clean your work area is when you invite guests in, how, creative your solutions are, that you put these wonderful wood sculptures out at the end of your driveway and your neighbors are like, that's fantastic. That's Joe's artwork. Isn't that wonderful? So those kind of comments, if that makes you happy as the artist and it makes the public happy, that's a win. So you want to constantly get that reaction from people. It's like, those are wonderful. That's Joe down the street. His company name is, who knows, Northwoods Creative Wood Sculptures. And that's fantastic. And that's the way this all starts. Consistency, absolutely critical to being able to build that memory of your work in people's minds. Okay, thanks. So regarding brand, so what do you want your brand to feel like? So we talk about logos like the Nike Swish and the Tesla logo and Coca-Cola and Google. Google looks like so much fun and colorful, and wow, is it fraught with problems today? So it feels a bit of a disconnect from the colorfulness of what it started to be. So it's running into some trouble. I'm sure it'll figure itself out. But those kinds of things are what you're going to want to think about for your brand. Okay, so let's see. Next, yeah, let's do the next. Can you go back one? Name your brand. Yes. So artists, sometimes there's a couple of routes that you can go. So you can use your own personal name. I use Ann Trainer Domingue as my business name. So anything that has to do with my art, I use all three of those words. Quick reasoning, the middle word wound up being my first husband's family name. Then I got divorced and I got a really hard to spell and pronounce last name in Domingue, but I really wanted to keep the word trainer signed on my artwork for my kids and grandkids' sake, because they would be trainer. So I went with this long name. It's worked out fine because people just go and they say, and so could, and it's like, that's me. They don't have to say the rest of the word because they can't pronounce it. So it came to be a really kind of funny thing that it's like, as soon as they said the first name, it's like, okay, that I know what they're trying to say. So if your name is hard to pronounce, it still might be the best thing, because somebody has to type your name exactly correctly to come up on a search tool now in our major searches, which is how we find people on the internet. So if you misspell my last name, I actually now still might come up because I have so much stuff out there in the world. But Ann Trainer Domingue is what I use for my art, but just in personal life, it's Ann Domingue. That's how people know me. So for you, you can use your name. Some people create another name. The issue with that is the created other name is not known by anyone or any entity, and it's not connected with you. So I would advise probably starting with maybe use your last name or your full name, Susan Smith, Art Studio. Leave it at that. And there's no question that if somebody searches Susan Smith Art Studio, you're gonna pop up on the internet. In your personal application of it, if you want to make a sign for your studio, maybe that's where you say North Country Environmental Art. That's what your studio name is, but your art business name is Susan Smith North Country Art, for instance. So you can have just a personal thing because you would like for it to have not your name on the sign because a variety of reasons, but you'd really love to make a logo out of this North Country contemporary art, let's say. Okay. The other thing about a name, is it pronounceable easily with a simple spelling? So some folks will try to be a little tricky and funky with other spellings and things. It's not helpful to the marketplace as a whole to have to struggle with spelling your name or pronouncing it. So if you have a choice to do, go with the one that's memorable, easy to pronounce and spell. That would be my advice. You also have to be careful that if you would like to trademark that name, you need to check with the federal U.S. Trademark and Copyright Office. There's a lot of information. It's a .gov site. A lot of information on there about trademark and logo. So you can trademark the shape of the logo and the word itself. And there's a search that they'll do on your behalf. It costs something. Years ago, it was $250, but now it's probably around $500 for them to do the search so that you don't duplicate anyone in our state. I have a registered trademark for my graphic design business, which I have just put my art business under the same moniker, and that's called Clear Blue Design. So I don't use that in business, but that is how I'm listed with the state of New Hampshire as Clear Blue Design. And I've continued using that for a long time now. Next. So creating a brand mark or a logo, I really advise you to work with an experienced graphic designer. Look at their portfolio of what they've produced. It should be a logo that if you put that logo in a postage stamp, you can still read it and you can tell what it is for, what the business is, what the icon might stand for, that it's recognizable in that small of a space, you probably have a good thing going. If it's got too many words, too many flourishes, it can't be used in a small, on a letterhead or a business card in a successful way. I keep working with your designer until it's simplified and it's sharp and clean, and you'll know that it's easy for you to apply it to. Maybe you want to do a branding iron kind of thing for woodworking. You might want to do some kind of stamp of some sort. It will work better if the design is really clean and crisp and done by a professional. People who want to offer ideas about your logo, excuse me, though, yes, you can take those ideas, even if they're scribbles in pencil, to a designer, and please ask them, could they also do one that kind of sort of looks like this to satisfy you that maybe the designer's idea brings more clarity to it than the idea that you brought along. Okay. You'll also want to try to select a color palette for your own company. If you're a woodworker, maybe it's brown, black, and white. Maybe it's purple, black, and white. You know, try to not be overly complicated. Don't use all the colors of the rainbow, because every single thing you print then needs to be in full color. and you won't be able to read it unless it is in full color, and you set yourself back because you're constantly needing to do something in full color in order for it to render. So you really want it to work in black and white and gray could be an alternate, but just a 2 to 3 color max, just so that it will save you costs in doing a lot of different promotional items if you wanted to advertise and put it on a flag, or, one of, those yard signs and other much larger things. Simpler is better, cleaner is better. Let's see. In my business, I created a tagline. So there's a couple of different things, other tools that you can use to keep your marketing on track. And let's go to the next slide, please. So a corporate tagline, there's a couple of things. This is from graphic design world, but it applies to an individual artist as well. So you want to create a business tagline or corporate tagline. It has no flourishy adjectives at all. It's just strictly, if this was me, it would be Anne Trainer Domain, hand-built pottery. So that's, people have a vision in their head of hand building pottery on a wheel, and then they get that. And then the next slide is about a marketing tagline. So you illuminate what this hand-built pottery is about. So from a marketing point of view now, this hand-built pottery was inspired by ancient forests. So if you think about ancient forests and what that might mean, so between the ruggedness of bark, the size of trees, the color of the wood, the forest itself, and leaves and twigs and the ground and dead leaves and live and nuts and animals. I mean, that pottery could have all kinds of decoration on it. Structurally, it could have animals. Structurally, it could have leaves, and the handle might be a tree branch. It could be an elk horn or a deer horn over there, like the artwork on the table over here. It broadens your ability to find visual things that will help to reinforce what your artwork is about. Okay, so this one's a marketing one, and the previous one was a corporate tagline, which is kind of stiff, kind of dry, intentionally. And then this is the one that really gives people and illuminates for them what it is that you do. Okay. And next, and while you're doing that, okay, you're going to keep working on your art. Okay, there we go. Got to back up, work on your art. And always welcome feedback. Okay, be ready to take in what people say. You can jot it down. If it hurt your feeling, that's fine. Go ahead and scribble it down anyway, and then really give some thought about, now, why would someone say that? And then go and talk with someone who you know can be objective with you. We should all have at least one person in our life and like, wow, this person said this about my work. Why would they have said that? So try to analyze it yourself first, and then ask someone else to help you work out that, because that could be a real sticking point for you if you can't get through that, and you don't want that to happen. You want to just be able to continue on with your work, okay? And stay clear with your brand message, no matter what it is, across everything that you do. If you have a choice of sweatshirt to make, and your brand color is hunter green, you're going for a hunter green sweatshirt. Even if it costs you $2 or $3 more, you're just going to go with that. Okay, that's the kind of decisions and those points that you make that are a guideposts for you to make choices and use as sounding boards to keep your brand aligned as much as possible. As you get more experience and as you get some feedback, you'll make some tweaks and changes. But to get you on the road, this is where I would advise that you start. So feedback is good. Connecting with groups is good. But certainly I want to make you aware of not being tribal with being part of a group. The group should be sharing ideas, but not so much that their ideas become your ideas. It's a tricky thing to walk through, but you need to stay who you are and cherry pick the things that you believe could be helpful. Some people are very charismatic and you can't help but like, wow, it's great. Yes, I'm going to go do that. And then you find yourself running out of time. You just put yourself on a board that you don't have time for. Or like me, you went out and you tried to do some teaching and that was not at all what worked. I taught for an art center in Manchester, and that at the Currier Art Center worked out very well for me because it fit my schedule. Some of it was in the daytime and then sometimes at nighttime. So that worked out really well for me, but I did try something else and that pulled me right away from things. And I didn't think that it would happen to me, but it totally did. So I advise you just be careful when you are going to support groups and art associations and that kind of thing. Just make sure that you still do you in spite of getting all this good information from them. And also be sure to be your own brand and not sort of a lightweight version of somebody else's. Like you can learn a lot from somebody else, but be sure to make sure that you bring it back to yourself and take only the bits from that other thing that will make your work even better. Okay. Okay. So you have a lot of friends, coworkers, other acquaintances that you can use as resources for information. I think after the COVID-19, things in the business world have definitely changed, but locally, state, nationally. So information that you're going to go after online, really make it as current as you possibly can. Check the dates on articles, like 2015 date. I wouldn't even bother reading it. I jump ahead to 2020 and to now 2022, and we're already at the end of 2022. So try not to go too far back because that kind of data and information isn't going to be valid for now. So searching out some info might be a little trickier now. Next. And as you'll see in the chat, I think we're going to add a PDF of links of resource material. So if that doesn't show up there, I think you would be able to send something out to this group.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask here.
I can email them.
Yeah. And so these guys will email it out if the link in the chat doesn't seem to want to function. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty self-explanatory, and definitely Paul's source and SCORE as a resource. So go to the website, it's scorenh.org. So that's pretty easy. So scorenh.org and look up what kinds of business resources might be helpful for you. Also, you can check into local art centers, colleges. A lot of our towns have maker spaces now that are wonderful resources for information. There's various MFA programs if you want to get further into what it is that your chosen art. Obviously, if you're looking for opinions about your work and you want to run something by someone, be sure that that someone that you're running it by is a successful artist or craftsperson, that they have been in business, that they can assure you that this is a good business practice, this one might not be so good over here. So you want to get information from people who have been in it. I know that might sound simplistic, but you really want to be sure that that person has some really good experience behind them, so you can take their advice very seriously. Okay, and they're going to help you as a mentor, possibly help you sort through the layers of choices and help guide your decisions through your experience. Okay, and then lastly, so working as an artist entrepreneur, you know, it's really is rewarding. So we got blessed with having a creative brain and are someone who is not afraid of the business side of things in order to put our art out there that we so love creating. So if you can put those pieces together, you're going to find success, but it's going to take some effort on your part. And I hope that I've given you some good information to get you started or put you on an additional path that you now know that, oh, if you just did that, that would link together with this and make your business on the road to being successful. Okay, so that is what I have for you tonight. So I think there's just one more slide. So thank you everyone for being out there. If you have questions, I hope you've put some in the chat. And if not, you can forward the questions and I'll have Erica forward them on to me and I'll answer them for you. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.